Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about the fifth and final 1971 direct sequel to a 1970 movie. Today we're talking about Night of Dark Shadows. This is a sequel to House of Dark Shadows, both of which are actually movie adaptations of the television show Dark Shadows, produced and partially directed by Dan Curtis. Dark Shadows was a TV show from 1967 until 1971. There were 1,225 episodes. The show was on 5 times a week. It was a soap opera. I guess you could call it a supernatural soap opera. When I watched House of Dark Shadows for 1970, I found the movie to be okay but confusing. In fact, if you watch that video you saw, I didn't even give it a rating because I couldn't even figure out what was really going on. I realized it was because we were watching a movie full of characters that were introduced in a TV show that I had never seen, so I didn't think it was really fair to rate it. Now, since then, I've gone back and watched some of the TV show. I watched the first few episodes, and I will say I can't watch it. These episodes are roughly 20 minutes long. Barely anything happens in any particular episode. You have to watch many episodes together to really get a chunk of plot going. In the episodes I watched, there were pretty much all the scenes almost took place in the house, okay? In the House of Dark Shadows. The series follows this house, which is in the fictitious town of Collinsport, Maine. And the name of the house is Collins Wood. So different people go in and out. It starts off with a woman coming to take care of a kid that lives there. Anyway, the movie House of Dark Shadows had this vampire named Barnabas as the main bad guy. Okay, he was pretty interesting in the movie. He doesn't even show up until like episode 220 in the TV show. So I did skip to that episode, and again, it was just so slow I couldn't watch it. But given all that, I felt like I could go at Night of Dark Shadows from a better angle. I saw the first movie, saw some episodes of the TV show, so I figured I could go in this and give it a better shot than the first one. Now, the first one I kind of enjoyed. A lot of crazy stuff happened. There was a crazy vampire, there were some good effects, there was some good makeup and all that. This movie, honestly, it was confusing, it was incoherent, and almost nothing interesting happened. I thought my brain was broken when I was watching this because I just could not figure out what was going on. There was no vampire in it, okay? Now, my bad. I had a false expectation, okay? If you look at this poster here, you can see that it's more witch-based, okay, and not really vampire-based. But even the witch is barely in it, and she's dead the whole time. There's only flashbacks to the witch. So what happens is this guy named Quentin goes to Collinsport, okay, Collinswood, and he shows up, and it's confusing because he starts having flashbacks, except they're not to his own life. They're to 200 years before, where this witch is hanged. But like, you're not sure if he's the witch's lover. In his own flashbacks, he's the witch's lover, but that's actually a different person, but it looks exactly like him. It's probably his ancestor, but it's not fully explained. At the same time, the groundskeeper almost looks like him too, and I couldn't figure out until the whole movie was over if that was supposed to be like his twin brother or what, but it's not. It's just another actor that I guess happens to look exactly like the main actor. So that's confusing. I always kept waiting for some twist to show up where the groundskeeper was really the main character's brother, but it has not. No, that's not a thing. The two actors just look almost exactly the same. I don't know who casted them. The groundskeeper's not a big role. He barely says anything, so you didn't really need like a great actor in that role. You could have picked anybody else. It would have looked different than the main actor. So, I give this movie a 4 out of 10. I feel like I'm being generous. I can't really justify giving it any points, like anything more than a 1, other than the fact that like the acting was fine. The music is good. Okay, you can hear the music in the background here. The music is the best part. Only thing is they kind of use some of the same songs over and over again, so it gets old after a while. But I do like that the music was very eerie and creepy and ominous. That was good, okay? None of the actors, there was no problem with the actors, okay? And there were some cool shots. The cinematography was cool. Like, somewhat bizarre. Like, sometimes you're just looking completely from the ceiling. You're looking down at people. Sometimes you're looking at a weird angle and all that. So, the whole movie doesn't really make sense. Get to the point where the groundskeeper wants to kill some of the visitors. The main character is going insane. He's like a schizophrenic. He's got a split personality. Sometimes he's himself. Sometimes he's his own ancestor. And then at the end, the ghost of the witch shows up and starts scaring people. But then it kind of just like ends. There's like a happy ending, even though nothing really like gets resolved. And so I looked it up, and as it turns out, Dan Curtis, the director, who had previously directed House of Dark Shadows, this is his second movie ever. He had done a few episodes of the TV show, like 20 actually, but that's only a few, considering it had over 1,000 episodes. He created a 2-hour movie, and from what I gather, MGM, who released the movie, told him he had to cut it down to 90 minutes, and they gave him 24 hours. They gave him 1 day to cut this down from 2 hours to an hour and a half. And so I think that's why it's incoherent. He had to cut, I think, 16 scenes or something like that. Or like at least part of 16 scenes. So there's a whole bunch of backstory that completely gets cut out. A whole bunch, like most of the witch stuff, I think, gets cut out. So you barely even see the witch, even though that's the main selling point on this poster. So the whole thing's a mess. I guess I kind of feel bad for Dan Curtis, but I mean, how good could it have really been that if you can't put 90 minutes together and have it be good? So I didn't love House of Dark Shadows, but it's like a masterpiece compared to this one. This one's a mess. Night of Dark Shadows, 4 out of 10. There are no more direct sequels from 1970 movies. So what we're going to start with next week is we're going to look at directors who did a movie in 1970 and also in 1971. So we're going to start to look at various directors that were like had multiple hits. I think we're going to do Dario Argento's second movie next week. I think that's where we're going. So I'll see you then. Take care.